Have you ever felt like everything was crumbling around you, and yet you were forced to follow smiling? It's like being in the middle of an umbrella storm, wet on the outside, exhausted inside. When chaos sets in, our first reaction is usually entering the autopilot of anxiety, fear, and reactivity. But what if I told you that there is a place of calm that you can access even on the worst days? Yes, this place exists, and it is within you. Keeping calm when everything seems to crumble is not magic, it's skill. And the best. It is a skill that can be developed with simple, conscious, and transformative practices. Throughout this content, you will find out how silence, serenity, and self-control can become your greatest allies. And the most surprising, the answer you seek is not out in the noise of the world, is in your internal balance. It may seem daring to say that, but you may not have to fix the world outside. Maybe you just need to start inside, prepared to turn the key. So come with me, because keeping calm is not isolate yourself from life. It is learning to cross it lightly even when it decides to test you. Oh, and before we dive into this transformative content, take the opportunity to subscribe here to the channel and activate notifications. Thus you do not lose any step of this journey of balance, conscience, and inner peace. There is a silent power that many people underestimate. Silence, unlike what it seems, is not absence, it is a deep presence. He invites us to get out of the noise of the world and enter the space where our essence lives. Instead of escaping emotions, silence allows us to hear them. This is where we begin to understand what is really happening within us. In the midst of chaos, when everything seems to scream at the same time, silence arises as a refuge. He does not erase the problem, but creates an internal environment where we can see it more clearly. Silence is like the brake button in a too-fast movie. And in this interval we can breathe, reflect, and resume control. It's almost like an emotional maintenance that no one sees, but transforms everything. Do you know that moment when you are about to explode, but take a deep breath and choose to shut up? This is where silence shows its transforming force. He is not cowardice, he is pure wisdom. Because reacting with shouts is easy. It is difficult to hold the wave and answer with maturity. And when you choose this route, you are already exerting the self-control that turns conflicts into learning. Silence is also a form of empathy. Sometimes the best way to support someone is not talking, but being present without judgment. How many times has a break worth more than 1,000 advice? When we silence inside, we can listen to each other truly, and that changes everything. Conscious communication begins in listening, not speech. In times of turbulence, silence anchors you. It gives you time and space to rearrange your mind and balance the emotional. Think of it as a dark room where you can see the stars better. It is in silence that lucidity is born. And it is this lucidity that allows you to act more calmly, even when everything seems out of place. Silencing is not silent forever, but choosing the right time to express yourself. It is setting aside the impulsiveness and making a bridge of the pause between thought and action. How many times have a minute of silence saved you from an answer you would regret? Silencing is also protecting your peace. Silence is a form of self-knowledge. When you silence the external world, you hear more clearly what is inside. And often, that's where the answers appear. It shows you what is real, what is noise, and what needs attention. The clarity that comes from silence is a light that guides firmly. And more silence teaches. He shows that not every presence needs to be noisy. Not every answer needs to be immediate. He trains our patience, tunes our listening, and strengthens our serenity. It is in this internal place that we begin to heal. Because where there is silence, there is space, and where there is space, there is a possibility of transformation. Being calm does not mean being oblivious to what happens. On the contrary, it is being totally present, without being swallowed by emotions. Calm down is like an internal shelter where you retire when everything outside seems threatening. And the most beautiful, this shelter can be built by you every day. Brick, brick, breathing, breathing. Serenity is a kind of silent courage. Do not shout, it does not impose itself but remains. When you cultivate this serenity, you are training your brain not to react on impulse. He is telling himself, I choose how I will answer. This is power. And more than that, it's emotional freedom. Many people think calm is a privilege of those who have the perfect life. But it is not. Calm down is a choice you make despite the chaos. You don't have to wait for the scenario to improve to find serenity. You can start now, in the middle of the mess. And curiously, it is this posture that begins to change the environment around you. When you are calm, your mind works better. Ideas flow, feelings are organized, and even the body relaxes. This has a scientific basis. Stress states directly affect reasoning and health. Calmness activates areas of the brain linked to empathy and clear thinking. That is, cultivating calm is also a way of taking care of yourself. Calm down is contagious. Have you noticed how to be close to someone serene soothes too? This is the power of the balanced presence. You become a kind of emotional anchor for others. And that strengthens not only your journey, but the relationships around you. Calm people create safe environments, and safe environments favor growth. It is in calm that we can hear what really matters. In the middle of the noise, everything seems urgent. But when you slow down, you realize that not everything needs immediate response. Some things just need time. Calm down is the fertile soil of wisdom. This is where discernment springs, and with it, more conscious decisions. You can start building your calm fortress with small habits: meditation, conscious walks, deep breath, journaling. You don't need a revolution, needs constancy. Choose a practice and stay with it for a while. Observe the effects. Calm down is built with kind discipline. And most importantly, do not confuse calmly with passivity. To be calm is not to omit, to choose to act clearly. It is not accepting everything, it is knowing what energy deserves. It is the difference between reacting and responding. Calm down puts you in charge, not in the world, but from yourself. And that is what really transforms everything. Mastering one's emotions is a true superpower, and believe me, it is closer than you think. Self-knowledge is the first step on this journey. When you understand your triggers, you begin to realize that not every anger needs to be shout. Not every sadness needs to become isolation. It's like gaining a map of your own mind. And with this map, you even browse the storms. The silent answer is one of the greatest proof of emotional maturity. It requires you to hear, breathe, and only then react if applicable. This is self-control in practice. Take time between stimulus and response. It is that waiting a little that avoids many regrets. When you practice it, your life changes your tone. It gets lighter, more conscious, more yours. It is common for us to catch ourselves by saying, I am anywhere, explosive. But is it really? Or is it just a repeated behavior for lack of looking inside? Self-knowledge invites you to investigate these beliefs. And the most beautiful is to realize that you can reinvent yourself. Emotion is not a villain, it just needs to be understood. It is not about repressing, but of redirecting. A good exercise is to observe your standards in times of stress. What words do you usually use? What sensations arise in the body? This kind of attention is a powerful workout training. Start writing down, taking a deep breath, and trying to understand what is behind that emotion. In a short time, you start to have more control over your reactions. Emotional mastery is not becoming cold or controller, it is just the opposite. It is feeling everything, but wisely. It is being so connected with you that you can act clearly even in the mess. It is knowing how to say no with respect, express frustration with empathy, and even be silent when the heart asks. It is transforming inner chaos into serenity. And look how interesting when you really start to know yourself, life just seems so unpredictable. You understand why certain comments affect you more, why repeat some behaviors even knowing they don't work. This consciousness creates balance. And balance is the foundation of every lasting change. Books like Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence are great for those who want to deepen this theme. But besides reading, practice. Before bed, review your day. Ask yourself, where could I have answered different? This simple question already makes room for new attitudes. This is how a more stable mind and a lighter heart are built. And remember, self-knowledge is not a destination, it is a process. The more you explore, the more you understand that your emotions are not your enemies, they are messengers. Knowing how to listen to them is one of the greatest acts of self-love. And by cultivating this domestic domain, you become someone who not only survives the storms, but learns to dance in the rain. Have you ever tried to be silent for 2 minutes, just paying attention to your breath? It sounds simple, but this little gesture can change the course of a whole day. Meditation, no matter how far it seems, is a totally accessible practice. No need to sit in lotus position or empty the mind. Just be present. Breathe. Observe. This is already an act of reconnection. Mindfulness or full attention is like an antidote against autopilot. Instead of having a hurry, you taste. Instead of responding on the impulse, you listen. Start with simple things. Feel the water in the bath. Notice the taste of coffee. Look at the landscape on the walk. This anchors you in the present and brings more calm to routine. Reflecting daily is how to sharpen the mind. It can be with journaling, writing what you felt, thought, learned on the day, with prayer, or simply spending a few minutes silent. The important thing is to create a space where you can see yourself without judgment. Serenity grows in this place. This is where the deepest answers appear. A practical tip: download an app such as Insight Timer or Lojong and choose 510-minute guided meditations. It doesn't need much time, it needs intent. Regularity matters more than the duration. In a few days, you begin to realize more focus, less anxiety, and a nice feeling of lightness. These practices also strengthen empathy because they connect you with what you feel, and by recognizing your emotions you better understand others. This reflects on your relationships. You become more patient, more present, more aware of the words you use. It all starts to change inside. And do you know what is magical about it? The world may remain run, but within you everything gets more spacious. The mind to look like an anthill. This break comes between what happens and how you react. This break is gold. This is where wisdom lives. And it only appears when you slow down a little to listen to yourself. Another valuable practice is body scanning. Lie for 5 minutes and take attention to each body part, from head to toe. This helps to release tensions, identify where it is carrying unnecessary weight, and promotes balance. Your body also speaks, and when you listen, it thanks you. Finally, no perfection is covered. There will be a day that meditating will seem impossible. It is good too. The secret is to come back the next day. The simple fact that you try is already a sign that you are choosing the path of self-care. And every time you choose, a little more peace sets in. Not as magic, but as a practice. Building an emotional fortress is more like taking care of a garden than lifting a concrete wall. It requires time, constancy, and daily attention. It is not about hardening, but of strengthening with sensitivity. When you commit to this process, you begin to realize that true power is in the consistency of small choices. Each conscious attitude is an extra brick in the structure of your peace. Patience is one of the foundations of this construction. In a world that values quick responses and emotions to the skin, knowing how to wait is a revolutionary gift. It is in the time of waiting that emotions are based, ideas organize themselves, and clarity appears. Calm down is not imposed, it is repeatedly cultivated until it becomes part of who you are. And once installed, it protects you to the worst days. You can't build this fortress running away from pain. You need to look at, welcome what bothers, and gradually transform. Do you know that feeling that everything shakes you? It begins to disappear when you strengthen your interior with resilience. It is not about being immune to pain, but about knowing how to deal with it more maturely. The pain comes, but it doesn't dismantle you anymore. A good exercise is to identify the moments when you felt strong even in the difficulties. Write down, review, value these experiences. They are the first signs that their fortress already exists, even in construction. Over time, this becomes a habit. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of crossing serenity crises. Another useful practice is to create an emotional first aid box. In it, you put songs that calm you, phrases that inspire you, breathing techniques, meditations, books that strengthen you. It works as a reminder that the solution is within reach. You just need to access what you already know. This is a practical way to keep your center even on difficult days. The emotional fortress also lifts with healthy limits. Saying no with respect, pausing before reacting, getting out of environments that drain your energy, all this is part of the construction. It's not selfishness, it's careful. Taking care of your internal space is the first step to be able to take care of what is around with authenticity. Over time, you realize that this fortress does not isolate you, it connects you. Because when you are whole, you relate better. Empathy grows, judgment decreases, and the desire to contribute to the world increases. Your inner peace becomes a gift for those who live with you, and that transforms any environment. This construction is continuous, and yes, there will be cracks. But every well-built fortress allows reforms. You don't have to be perfect, you just need to be willing to go back to the center. With each difficulty faced with consciousness, you reinforce the structure. And one day, without realizing it, it becomes the shelter itself, not only for you, but for those who need support as well. The way we communicate our relationships and our life. Conscious communication begins long before opening its mouth. It is born of silence, listening, intention behind the words. Speaking with presence is an act of affection. And more than conveying ideas, it is about building bridges. Each word has weight, and using them carefully is a form of respect. Knowing when talking is important, but knowing when silence is essential. The famous silent answer can avoid unnecessary discussions, preserve relationships, and bring clarity to delicate moments. Not answering immediately is not weakness, it is emotional intelligence. It is choosing to answer with purpose, not on impulse. It is knowing that time also communicates. When we talk in the heat of emotion, it is easy to hurt unintentionally. Therefore, the break is magical. Breathe, tell up to 5, ask yourself, does this answer build or destroy? If the answer does not build, perhaps silence is the way. Conscious communication is an extension of self-control. It shows how much you have already learned to observe yourself. And look, communication is not just what you say, but as you say. The tone of voice, the facial expression, the choice of words, everything communicates. To be empathic is to adapt your language without losing your truth. It is not a matter of being false, but being careful. You can disagree firmly and still maintain harmony. A good habit is to review difficult conversations after they happen. Ask yourself, was it clear? I heard it for real. Could I have said otherwise? This kind of self-assessment sharpening your communication. It is like going to the Academy of Words. Over time, you start talking less, but better. And that completely changes the level of your relationships. Want to train this? Start with listening active. When someone speaks, listen without interrupting, repeat what you understand, and only then answer. This shows attention and respect. It sounds simple, but miracles in living together. What's more, when you feel heard, you feel valued. Conscious communication creates this positive cycle. Also, practice non-violent communication, concept of Marshall Rosenberg. She proposes 4 steps: observe without judging, expressing feelings, saying needs, and making clear requests. It is a way of expressing yourself with truth, without assaulting. And it's powerful. It works at home, at work, anywhere where there is human interaction. Finally, remember, words are like seeds. Some flourish in peace, others hurt. Talk to the heart, but conscientious. And when you feel that no word is enough, that the environment is not ready, or that emotion still dominates you, choose the break. Sometimes the best dialogue begins in silence. And this is where the true power to transform is found. True inner peace is not a divine gift reserved for monks in isolated mountains. It is a daily practice, a choice we make in every small gesture. Peace is to wake up and decide that you will not be taken out of its hurry, which will take a deep breath before reacting, which will prioritize without blaming. It looks simple, and it is. But it requires courage. In a world where chaos has become routine, choosing calm is a revolutionary act. Opt for serenity when everything screams urgency is like walking against the culture of haste. You begin to realize that living in peace is much more about what you don't feed than what you achieve. It's about saying, this won't go into my peace field. This peace is also in everyday conscious choices: how you start the morning, with what feeds your mind, with whom you connect. A lighter feed, a conversation that builds, a presence with presence. All of this strengthens your emotional base. And when you notice, that distant inner fortress is already there, firm, growing a little more every day. But make no mistake, living in peace takes work. It requires attention, willingness to observe, humility to recognize that you will not always get it right. Sometimes we get out of control, say what it shouldn't, get annoyed by bullshit. All good. Peace does not require perfection. She calls for presence. Ask you to come back, what to choose again. how many times it takes. Calm down in this context is like an emotional muscles. You are strengthening over time. And, like any workout, it has easy days and days when it looks like nothing works. At these times, the secret is to insist. Deep breath may seem little until you realize the impact it has when it is about to explode. A great habit to cultivate this peace is to book 5 minutes a day to do nothing. Nothing at all. Just be silent, with your eyes closed, breathing. It sounds too simple, but it is in this empty space that things are organized. The mind thanks you, and the heart too. This break is an invitation to balance. Living in peace also means acting with respect, even when it is not easy. Be kind when the other is aggressive. Listen without judging. Be firm without being hard. Is it easy? No. But it is possible. And each time you choose this posture, reinforces the commitment to a lighter life for you and for those around. This peace you cultivate spreads. People feel. They are looking for you to talk, trust you, are inspired by your way. And you realize that when choosing serenity every day, you are not only taking care of yourself, but also sowing transformation where you pass. And that's where magic lives, peace that begins inside, turns light to the whole world. Topic 8: Transform conflicts into learning. Conflicts are part of life. They appear in traffic, in difficult conversations, in poorly interpreted messages. But what we do to them is what really counts. When you respond serenity, the conflict transforms. He is no longer a threat and becomes a growth opportunity. And it's not self-help chat, it's wisdom practice. Imagine that discussion that almost got you serious. Now you think, what if, instead of retorting, you had made a silent answer? Given one step back, breathed, chosen the right time to talk. It changes everything. The situation may not even resolve on time, but you remain whole. And this is already a victory. Transforming conflicts into learning requires self-control. Anger even comes, but you don't let yourself be overwhelmed by it. Instead of reacting on impulse, you observe. Ask, what is this trying to show me? Sometimes what seems like an attack is just poorly expressed pain of the other. Sometimes it is your own fear speaking louder. And understanding that changes the way you deal with the world. It is not about accepting everything silent. It is about choosing when and how to act. Knowing that not every clash needs to become war. And that sometimes the biggest sign of strength is to give in a little to maintain the bond. Balance is in this neither passive nor explosive. Only conscious. You position yourself without getting lost. You defend yourself without hurting. Empathy is a great ally in this process. When you try to understand what the other feels, anger loses strength. The active listening, the sincere look, the calm tone all disarms the conflict. Of course it doesn't work with everyone, but it works on you. And if you change, the environment inevitably begins to change too. A practical tool. Use the timeout technique. If you feel it will explode, let me know. I need time to think about it. Move away, breathe, reflect. Then come back more clearly. This avoids fights, brings people closer and shows maturity. Poorly resolved conflict becomes hurt. But well-conducted conflict becomes connection. What's more, each conflict is a mirror. It reveals where you still feel insecure, where you have open wounds. Therefore, take advantage of friction as healing opportunities. Ask questions to yourself. Why did it touch me so much? What part of me felt threatened? The answer may surprise you and free. In the end, the greatest masters of our lives are often those who challenge us. They are the ones who force us to grow, to position us, to practice what we preach. Do not escape the conflicts. Face them with conscience, because with the right tools, even the pain becomes evolution, and you become someone who transforms instead of reacting. Being serene is not being indifferent, nor ignoring the problems. It is, in fact, to make a brave choice every day to act consciously even when everything around it seems to ask a hurry or reaction. Serenity is a decision. And the most interesting thing is that it does not come ready, it is built, moment at moment, in small choices. Do you know the moment you could explode, but decide to take a deep breath? This is the conscious choice for serenity. It is understanding that you do not need to be hostage to what you feel. It can recognize emotion, welcome, but choose a different answer. This is self-control in practice. This is where you show that the boss in your life is not anger, it is your conscience. And no, that doesn't mean repressing feelings. On the contrary, it means allowing them to come, but without letting them control you. It is like being the captain of a ship in the midst of the storm. The sea shakes, but you keep the direction. And that, over time, becomes its base. It becomes his safe place, his new way of being in the world. Serenity is also strategic. It allows you to see solutions that stress would hide. It improves your decision-making, your communication, until your physical health. How many diseases come from excess tension, lack of break? When you choose calm, also choose to live with more quality. And this is reflected in everything. A simple practice to develop this choice is the 3-second answer. Before reacting to any situation that unbalances you, count mentally up to 3. This micropause gives you room to get out of the automatic. It sounds little, but it can save relationships, decisions, and even your mental peace. Over time, it becomes a habit. What's more, this serenity becomes visible. People notice. They ask how you can keep calm. And without saying a word, you inspire. You become a stability reference. A point of peace in the middle of the rush. This is much more powerful than trying to convince someone with speech. Serenity convinces by example. Choosing calm does not mean escaping conflicts. It means facing them more intelligently. You don't nullify yourself, just position yourself clearly, with respect, firmness, and presence. And in this process, he realizes that the world does not have to swallow you so that you are alive. You can live with intensity and peace at the same time. This choice for serenity is one of the greatest forms of freedom. Because in dominating your interior, nothing external has the power to easily unbalance you. Life keeps happening, but you learn to pass it on more lightly. And this, my friend, is the kind of power no one takes from you. When you change inside, the world changes around. It may seem exaggeration, but it is not. A person alone has a huge effect on the environment. Do you know that good feeling of being close to someone who conveys tranquility? This energy is real, and it begins with internal choices. Calmly, with balance, with presence. The transformation begins in the silence of your heart. You don't have to scream to be heard. When you live what you believe, your conscious communication inspires without effort. People start to ask themselves, how can he handle all this so well? And without realizing it, you become a reference of stability. This collective impact happens in little things, in the tone of your voice, the way you listen, in the way you deal with your own mistakes. His empathy teaches, his patience educates, his serenity heals. It is the domino effect of consciousness, and it's impossible to practice it just for you. Once awake, you inevitably influence the world, and you don't need great actions. Sometimes, the simple fact of not getting into a fight, listening carefully, respecting the other's time, is already a revolution. These attitudes break cycles of aggressiveness, disrespect, impulsiveness. When you change the frequency of your energy, everything around it starts to vibrate different as well. You become a mirror of what is possible. It shows that you can have firmness without rigidity, opinion without aggressiveness, truth without imposition. Its inner fortress becomes shelter for those who need it. And even unintentionally, you plant seeds of change. Sometimes in a conversation, sometimes only with your silent presence. Want to see this in practice? Think of someone who inspires you peace. Now, imagine being that person for someone. You are already, even if you have not yet noticed. Every attitude of yours is a message to the world. A conscious choice of responding with serenity rather than reacting on impulse. This is a collective gift. And of course, the path is continuous. Having impact does not mean being perfect. It means being real, human, constantly evolving. It means recognizing your mistakes and keeping trying. And in doing so, you allow others to become. It shows that growing is not linear, but it is possible and it is worth it. In the end, transforming the world may seem like a huge mission, but it all starts with you. The way you treat yourself, in the choices you make on a daily basis. Your peace is the first step for a better world. Because where there is someone in balance, there is always room for hope. And this is more than enough to inspire real changes. Now tell me, what are you going to do with all that you just learned? Will you let these ideas cool or start, even today, to practice what makes sense to you? Because the true change does not start with great revolutions, but with small daily decisions. And the most powerful of these is to choose to live more calmly, serenity and self-control, even when everything seems to fall apart. What attitudes can you change tomorrow? What reaction can be replaced by a silent response? Where can you put more empathy, more balance, more respect? Believe me, every conscious choice you make not only transforms your life, it reverberates, affects who is close, and gradually it impacts the whole world. Remember, you don't have to be in control of everything. You just need to learn how to command what is within you. And when that happens, even the chaos out there begins to lose strength. How about starting this journey of transformation right now? You are not alone in this, and every step, serenity is becoming more natural. If this content has made sense to you, subscribe to the channel here and activates the notifications. Thus, you continue to receive reflections, practical tools and inspirations to follow firmly on this walk of self-knowledge and inner peace. Let's go, step by step, build a space of more balance and consciousness. Porque sim, é possível viver com la vida mesmo em tempos turbulentos.